I guess this is where it ends, isn't it? F major at a second chord. This is the last episode. After I hit stop on this one, after I hit submit onto the YouTube page, that's it. That's the end of the podcast. I sat down and I said, this is going to be a year of my life. And a year ago tomorrow, I recorded the first episode. And this is it. This is where it ends. It's kind of weird. I've already mentioned that I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do with, my free time, now that I don't have this obligation. Thanks to all of you who have stuck around with me. And shame on you who pressured me into doing this but never actually listened to an episode. Yeah. But no, this is where it stops. And now that I figured out what I have to talk about for the next 8 minutes, I wanted to say at some point that there was a category which last week's went up so late. It was the holidays. I meant to do a podcast episode of the year, and that goes to, drumroll please, that goes to economics, which is ridiculous, and I knew it was great the moment it happened. I was glad that I did that. Runner-up to It Happens, I think. That was a very good period of podcast. And third place goes to Astro Ghost, which is usually the episode, whenever people ask me about my podcast, that's the episode I tell them to start with. That was magical. We had some magical moments on this podcast, and also we had some moments when I was just staring at the screen, watching the Audacity tick by and not know what to say. Let's do it behind the scenes. What the hell? I have nothing else to do today. It's New Year's Eve, and it's a holiday, and it's snowing outside, and it's too cold for me to go take a walk. So this is the way it would work. I would, Sunday, let's see. I would finish all my commitments for the day. I would eat dinner. I would socialize with my people. I would talk to my friends. And then I would go home. I would go to my room. I would close the door. I would boot up my computer. I would get out my keyboard. And I would just sit there for a minute. Sometimes I already knew what I was going to talk about. These are usually, weeks I did album reviews. A couple of the early episodes, I had sort of planned out the beats. The Easter Special is a good example of this, because Easter Special, I did a version of that podcast condensed into 30 seconds as an icebreaker to fill up a room once. And I said, I can turn this into something. So I took the bit about Father Abraham and I stretched it out a bit. I took the bit about the Sword of the Spirit. I stretched it out a little bit. I think I talk about the Easter Bunny in that episode. That was an innovation that I came up with in the room. I would have these beats and I would know I would need to get from one to the other, and I would invent material to start here and get there. Usually I would run out of beats before I hit the 10-minute mark, and that was just, I would have to improvise from there on out. And then, of course, there were episodes where I wouldn't have no idea what I was going to talk about, and I would just sit down and I would start talking, and usually I'd have to do 3 or 4 takes or something like that. Over the summer, I got much better at that, to the point where I could just sit down, start it up, think for maybe a minute, or not even think, just start going and it would work. And that was magical when it did happen. But when it didn't happen, it wasn't magical, and I would spend several minutes hemming and hawing and going in a circle. And it is under conditions such as that I came up with innovations such as the Forgive episode, which was in the winter, and also that episode where I gave up and just read poetry. Because I just couldn't come up with anything else. But yes, I would comment on things that happened in my life. I would say, this is something I can make a podcast episode out of. I would, listen to records and say, I want to review this. Sometimes there would be records that would come out, and I knew before they came out I would review them. Like the National record, I knew that would be a review. And there are other records that I listened to, and I was like, I have to talk about this. Orca was like this. And then Neochine was like that after I messed up the Orca review. And then there were other records that came out that I listened to. It's like, and I had said I was going to review them, and I did not. The most prominent example, I think, is the Thundercat record that came out this year, which I think I listened to half of once and then promptly forgot about. Do I have regrets about the way I did the podcast? Not really. I kind of regret the poetry episode. I should have read 2 poems, made it longer. But beyond that, not really. Because I did the thing I said I was going to do, which was do the podcast. And at first I regretted not scripting them out and sort of leaving them to the last minute and all of that. But then, I got better at it and I stopped worrying about it. Things are a lot easier when you stop worrying about them. Except for difficult things. Some things are just difficult. Like, I don't know, push-ups. Or burpees. God, I hate burpees. I hate burpees because they're actually hard. There's no working your way around the fact that burpees suck. Burpees, for those of you who don't know, is the exercise where you start at the standing position and then you drop down into a push-up. No. You drop down, you squat. I don't even know how to do a burpee. Hold on, I have to stop and physically do a burpee to see if I can remember how to explain it. Okay, I remember. You have to sit down and you have to stand up and do a squat, and then from a squat you go into a plank position, and then from this plank position you go back into the squat, and then you leap back into a standing position. It is hell on your thighs. And more power to you if you like doing burpees or whatever. I'm not here to judge you anymore. I'm sorry, I keep circling back to this being done thing because it's like, what else am I going to talk about? This is what it's like to retire. I better soak this in because, by the time I grow up, the retiring age is going to be 90, and I don't think I'm going to make it that long because I don't exercise or drink red wine. It'd be nice to retire someday. Go out, buy a boat, sail the world, whatever it is you do when you're retired. I'm not entirely sure. I've never been retired myself. I guess I could get a timeshare, I guess? I don't know. I'm not entirely sure what a timeshare is. I know you have to share it with other people for some duration of time, but I'm not entirely sure who these people are or what that duration of time is. But one day I will hopefully retire at the ripe old age of 103, and then maybe I will go on future YouTube and record a future cast about what future retirement is like. Or maybe I'll retire when I'm 30, when I accidentally cure cancer and I get rich, because that's how this country works. You get rich for curing cancer in this country. And then when I have done that, I will grow up, I will retire, and I don't know why I think that's going to happen. Because nothing I have ever done has led me to the curing of cancer, much less the making of money. But that's neither here nor there. I suspect that we are coming up on that fateful 9 to 10 minute mark, and I have to go retire. I gotta go celebrate the new year. I gotta go lay this one down to rest. I gotta call it a night. It's been a good run, and I'm glad to have done this. And boy, oh boy, am I glad to be done. I've been Miles White, and this, for the last, final, ultimate time, has been the podcast F Major Added Second Chord. And I guess I'll miss you. I wish you all a good year. I wish you all good times and good luck. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen.